Hello, beautiful souls. I am so glad to be back. Today, it kind of looks like I'm in a barn, but I'm not. This is actually the sunroom. And it does kind of have like that vacation lodge cottage feel. And we like to surround it with lots of plants just to kind of keep the vibes and the good energy going. So today, if you are here, then you clicked on this link because you need some tips on how to survive the winter blues. With the holidays, if you're in America, if you are in a country where in December, starting sometime in November, is really just kind of like full speed ahead. It is holiday season. Everything's busy. You've got to go, go, go. It's super stressful as an adult. As a kid, you're like, whoa, this is awesome. But as an adult, there's a lot of added responsibility around the holidays, and especially if you're a parent. So let's go into some holistic ways that I have found over the years to maybe just lift my spirits and make doing this whole January thing a little more palatable. Let's go. Get to know nothingness. We are not appreciative of downtime. It seems like in the Western society that I grew up in, that everything is really fast paced. Like, keep going, keep doing, more production, more this, more that. And having kids, being a mother and having kids in the summer can be, really, like, from the summer until it gets cold, it's kind of fun. Like, you have ball games and you can go hiking and you can go out to parks, and there's just so much to do. It stays light later, so your days seem longer, and the energy from the sun is invigorating, and so you just feel better for the most part. So whenever it starts to get dark early, usually that falls a little bit before Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so right about the time where you're like, blah, like, am I just going to binge Netflix all night, every night? Right about that time, holidays hit. And it gives you a purpose. And it's my favorite thing about the holidays is that for this little window in the middle of winter, there is something fun, something bright, something magical going on. Don't get me into exactly how commercialized I feel like the holidays have become, because that really does bother me. But for the most part, we kind of need something in the winter to keep our spirits up whenever all the fun just dies down out of nowhere. So our first holistic tip for how to help yourself feel better in January is going to be enjoy the lack of stuff to do. Get used to being uncomfortable. My mind usually is just going 90 to nothing, which is how I found meditation, and how meditation stills the mind and lets me reconnect. So I do meditate regularly all the time, but this year, right whenever it started getting dark earlier, my golden retriever, he passed away, and he was almost 18 years old, so it's not like we didn't know it was coming. But that, on top of less daylight, which means less time outside, less stuff to do, I really fell into kind of a funk. And I do everything in my power to keep from getting in those funks. So I'm still a work in progress. But instead of looking at January as, oh, it's cold and it's dark early and it's just so blah, especially after so much excitement, we need to look at January as a time where we're going to kind of slow down on purpose, and we're going to rest our spirit, and we're going to try to reconnect. Depression is really just your body telling you that you need to go inward, and you need to look inward and try to kind of figure out what is going on with your soul and your spirit that you feel off. So instead of looking at it as a negative, look at it as we're going to start these self-love habits that are going to keep us in a positive state of mind, even though we really just kind of are like, blah, when's it going to be daylight longer? I mean, maybe everybody's not that way, but I certainly am. So step number one is going to kind of lead us into the rest of these. Step number one is really to just embrace the nothingness. You know, if you get home from work, you can start doing some of the things we're going to go over. These would definitely be better for you than Netflix binging, which is what we as society have kind of started to lean to when there's nothing else to do. But that isn't healthy, and for me, it's not even fun. Like, I cannot even hardly get into any of the shows that are available. So anyway, let's keep going. Number one is going to lead us right into number two. So number two is going to seem kind of obvious maybe, because I'm always talking about the bath ritual. But for number two, let's look at having a bath ritual. I take a bath almost every night. At the end of the day, I like to soak in Epsom salt, because salt is healing. It's got the positive ions. The hot bath feels really amazing anyway whenever it's super cold outside. There's nothing else you need to do. Find a good book and soak in the bathtub. You could either listen to some music, listen to some bilateral beats music that are proven to uplift your mood. Have it playing in the background and read a book. Personally, during bath time, I get really ritualistic with it. I like to have my crystals around. Some people even put their crystals in the water just to raise the vibrations, so it will raise your vibrations. But I like to put the crystals that I just keep in the bathroom around the edge of the bathtub. I like to keep it very clean. You know, a dirty, messy bathtub is not going to make you feel all warm and cozy inside. So make it like a kind of a sanctuary. Light some candles. You know, turn a lamp on instead of the overhead light. And throw some Epsom salt in that mess and take a hot bath. It's a great way to end the day anytime, but especially whenever. Number three on our holistic ways to raise your vibrations and feel better in January is hot tea. So not only is the process of making hot tea kind of relaxing in itself, but a good hot tea also is kind of a detox. It can calm you. I'm not talking necessarily about making hot sweet tea, but just like a hot maybe chamomile tea. You could even take it into the bathtub with you. Anyway, when it's really cold outside, hot tea is always a great idea, right? So number 4 is candles. Get to know your candles again. Not only are candles kind of setting a mood and inviting relaxation, but they also invite reflection. So I'm going to go ahead and put these two together. If you don't journal, you should be. So go right now and pick out the prettiest, and most inviting journal you can find, and just start unconsciously writing in it. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. It doesn't even matter if you're misspelling things. It's just really good for the soul to get it all out of you. So you don't ever have to read it again. You could write in it and burn it. But light some candles and journal. get in the habit of journaling. Journaling is a really neat thing too, because if you do want to hold on to them, you can save them for, almost like an heirloom that, your relatives and people could read after you're gone. If you're writing some really juicy stuff, you may not want anyone to read. Maybe just burn it. Throw it in the fireplace, because the fireplace is also something that you can usually utilize if you have one in January. But light candles, turn some of the lights low. So I try to meditate at least once a day. You don't have to do long trance meditation or transcendental meditation. You could just set aside 5-10 minutes in the morning or at night before you go to bed to just quiet your mind as much as you can and meditate. That's a whole nother video. So our last one though is going to be go to bed early. Now, naturally, if it's daylight until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, then your days are longer and you fill them with more stuff. If you get off work from a typical job at 5, or if you're a kid and you get out of school at 3-ish, then, it's okay, because you've still got all these lovely hours to spend outside, out in nature, go walking or bicycling or whatever your thing is. Being outside, being in connection with the trees and earth is just very healing and very good for you. But whenever your day's over, your responsibilities for the day are over, whether that be work or school, and you go outside and it's dark and cold, it just kind of leaves a, So you could bundle up and go for a brisk walk outside. And they do make some fabulous outdoor clothing that will keep you warm. I really don't like cold weather. I don't like being cold. So that's not just usually my, I'm off work, I'm going to go home and go out in the cold and walk. But it's still better than nothing as far as getting your endorphins up from the exercise and just being outside. So meditate and then go to bed early would be my last two. Whenever you go to bed, you're going to be ready if you had a hot bath, if you soaked those weary, sore muscles and washed all the lingering energy that stuck to you from the day off in the bathtub, or shower, just to, it cleanses you. It cleanses your energy field. Meditate so that you can bring some peace, have a hot tea, light a candle, write it out, and just go to bed. Just go to bed. I mean, whoever complained that they were, upset that they were getting a little more sleep? Somebody maybe, not me though. I know though in the summer it is, like you probably aren't going to go to bed at 9 o'clock because you've been outside, you've been doing stuff, you've been filling that time with stuff. But this time of the year in January, at 9 o'clock it might as well be midnight, right? It's dark, it's cold, and there's just not a whole lot going on outside. Unless you just like hanging out in the cold. Yeah. So my name is Angelia. Thank you if you stayed through all of these with me. I was kind of all over the place because that's how my mind works. But if you liked this, if you got anything out of it, if you've got any advice for me on things to do in January, just leave it down below. I'd love it if you hit like, and if you want more content like this, subscribe. Okay, I think that's all. So it is January. There's no time like the present to get started. Go now. Go take your bath. Light your candles, have some tea, read a book, and go to bed.